Ladies and gentlemen, I have 7 o'clock. I would like to call this meeting of Public Works and Public Utilities to order. Have you taken attendance?
Yes.
If everybody would rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 on our agenda is comments from citizens. If we have any citizens that would like to speak and make a comment in the meeting, feel free to do so. I see we have a group of scouts. Any of you guys want to talk about anything? You're just here to observe?
Yes.
All right.
Very much.
Well, welcome. It's going to be just a ton of fun. I will close comments from citizens and move on to the electric department. There is an activity report in your packet. Jeff, anything you'd like to highlight on that?
No, I mean, we had to get to a crazy number of locations. With all the boring going on in town. Trimmed a lot of trees. About something else.
What would cause a street light to flash?
Which
Did you see
one?
that too?
Which one?
It was
Like
right
that
by the intermediate
house.
school.
Right there in front of Rodemeyer and Jefferson, I mean, like a strobe light flash.
It's taking a picture.
Well, it's not working now.
Oh, well, okay.
That's the one with the school zone light on.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not working at all now.
Oh.
I'm saying the bulb probably,
Well, it was
Probably keep
very-
him away.
Rhythmic flash. So it was loud.
Weren't they all changed out to LEDs?
Yeah, it's an LED one. It should
So it's
not
failed already?
should not have failed this quickly.
Think of the power stations.
There you go.
See what?
Think of the power station.
Yeah.
Anybody has any questions or comments about the activity report?
The only thing, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
we're still not turning people off if the temperature's less than 30, right?
Right.
So we had run into any of that yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Well, we kind of did the return check for that.
Oh, okay.
Anything for generation or purchase? Item for distribution? Moving on to other, we have bid sheets for purchasing three-phase pad mount transformer.
One for 8505 and one for over 9,000. Is there any difference from your perspective?
It's all the same transformer. It's like the, in Arkansas, pretty dependable company.
Is that including freight?
I am sure it is on Arkansas.
Okay.
Chris Davis is FOB, this, sorry, no, Howard Industries is FOB.
More
Destination.
12 to 14 weeks, 6 times, is that about right?
Yeah.
Where's this one go?
It's still under reserve. I had to put the one, I had to put, this one I had on reserve at Shoney Short Line.
just something to act on tonight.
No, it's just for your information. And there is a third,
There is a
it's
third,
called the
yeah.
WEG transformers, it's 7884.
Any questions about that? Anything else, Jeff? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, Public Works. You know, anything you want to highlight?
Oh, we did quite a bit of drainage work last month. We did a little small storm sewer project for a homeowner, culverts and that's probably about the biggie.
Maze Meadows done,
Do what?
is Maze Meadows done?
All the curb and gutter and drainage, all that is done. Just waiting for the weather to break so Christensen can come pave it.
So, spring,
Well, hopefully not.
They were planning on being here today.
Yeah, yeah, they had planned on this week, so, but unfortunately, Mother Nature has changed that, but hopefully we can get a good week here, and, they can get in here and get knocked out.
springtime will be plenty of
Hopefully winter's not here for the good.
Yeah. It's supposed to be
My
50
neighbors
on
would string me
Thursday.
up, I think, if that was the case.
It's supposed to be 50 or something like that on Thursday, so.
Anything else for the activity report for Public Works? Moving on to streets. We have a Randolph Road update and discussion.
In your packet are 2 more opinions of probable site construction costs. Option 5 is a 38-foot wide road with concrete road curbs up to Remington, right past Remington, and then continuing on with a 24-foot wide concrete road with no curbs, maybe gravel shoulders. Then there's also at the very end of that one, an alternate with asphalt. So that base bid without the contingency, the 8% contingency, with the asphalt is $598,248.65. So, then there's another option, which is still the 38-foot wide road with concrete curb and gutters, up past Remington, and then with a 19-foot wide concrete with curbs on the east side only, 19-foot, that Dawn had asked about. So there's that cost. And there's really not a whole lot of difference between the cost of that 19-foot road, plus 24-foot. So in the grand scheme of things, this is the expensive project anyway.
So you're talking option 6 on it?
Option 6 is the second one that I was
Okay.
asked to get.
Option 5 and 6 are both new.
We have all of the other options, that we had started off with, that Zach has prepared over this, this whole time, so.
19 was not really done already.
No.
No, but most of your letter drops are only about 18, 19.
I think Heather, you said you measured Highway 22, and that's only 24 feet wide? 22 feet wide?
If you look at Jefferson Street, bike lane to bike lane, that's 24 feet. And I was trying to figure out, I know 2 bids back, we had a 26-foot. We figured for concrete with curb, to see that, to kind of get a comparison there too. It also had the paving, middle sections, middle and north. Just to try to get some size difference. Could you explain like on the storm sewer, on this last one, we took out, I think the 18-inch, where was that supposed to be? Look at
What road you at?
He's looking at it.
Yeah,
I did move around some inlets. Is that what you're asking about?
yeah, and there's,
I don't think I took out any pipe.
I guess it was two bids ago, we had, the 18 was taken out. And I was just trying to figure out where we took those out. And then on the inlet structures, I did see,
There was a little bit different setup. For the earlier ones, I think it was options 1 through 4, we had alternates, and the base bid was paving from Highway 22 to Remington, and then doing gravel everything north. Well, right at that low spot there, about halfway up, we have a culvert. Well, if there are no curbs, then I didn't have inlets on either side. As we continued north though with the pavement, with the alternates, once we got the curbs in there, I then had to add inlets there. With this option, it has pavement all the way to the north, regardless of the option. And so that's why I put those inlets back in on this one. We can talk about that, whether or not you want them in there. We could probably take those out if it's curbless. You know, if you do it now, if you add the curb in later, if you widen it to the full 38 foot, then you would have to add the inlets back in. So it's just a matter of how you want to approach it. Go ahead and build it now, or wait and build it later when you build the full road width. So
I also noticed on like the water service, we added more footage from the start, lowering water line. How come we had to do that? Was that just because of the type of material you were using at that end? If we only did paving?
I'm looking at, are you referring to the earlier ones? I see item 501 is 160 feet. Is that what you're referring to?
Right.
Yeah. Did that change somewhere? I didn't.
Yeah, and it's, I got paper after paper here, so I'm trying to keep up with it. We had 100 foot when we started out.
Was that on the preliminary plan? I did finalize the grading a little bit more in that area. That is, that's the area for Roland Road up there, and I'm shifting it in between some of the power poles, trying to avoid having to move any of them.
Okay, I remember you talking about that. I knew we had that, and then we jumped up to 160, and I was trying to figure.
I think that was, the very original one was based on the preliminary plans and preliminary grading. And as we moved into some of this, I kind of finalized some of the grading, and I tweaked that, and that did result in a little bit more longer anticipated relocation. Because now the pipe or the water line will fall where the ditch is going to be. So we're going to be cutting in there, so we figured we'll have to lower some of that.
So right now, the balance in the transportation sales tax fund as of October 2018 is $311,833. Anyway, and then we also have 153 and a little bit more than that from set aside for this, plus the $200,000 rate. So just so you all, we expect to get probably about another 50,000 by the end of the fiscal year. I don't expect that we're gonna be paying, that we'll have this road going by the end of the fiscal year.
But we also want 180-ish or whatever our usual, our regular in city.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't remember what week it was we had, and then they have a chart or graph put together and what the amounts were with the different options.
It was last month. It might have been the regular board meeting.
So when do we have to make a decision?
So there is a time limit on the grant, so, I mean, the sooner we get it moving along, the sooner we can,
What's that time limit?
3 years to completion, I thought.
Pretty much if we're not starting next year, we won't be done.
Right. Right, and
It's gotta be done pretty much next year.
I mean, it looks like we're not going with a full concrete carbon gutter 38 street. So if that's the case, we have to figure out what we want and then go to the Board of Adjustment and ask their permission to do it.
So we have to make a decision in order to apply for an easement, correct?
Yes. And when I spoke to Sydney, she said she would rather have a decision on what direction we're gonna go with this before she works on getting the, notices out.
So if we make a decision to get the easement, then we have to finalize our decision after we get the okay with the easement, right? Or is that, when we do that, are we like going, I mean, taking off, and once we decide, say, yeah, we want this dimension, pretty much we agreed to do this, right?
I think that, I mean, according to the grant administrator that was here, up until we sign a contract with a company saying that we are going to do this, we can back out.
Yeah.
So we have to make a decision. That's what
Right,
to
we
do.
have to make a decision.
Yeah. Our decision will give Sydney what she needs to request easements. And like Heather said, until we actually sign a contract with a contractor, we're not obligated to anything right now. So making a decision on this would, make it easier to get the easements.
You wanna think about it? Need more information?
What's that gonna leave us in money for overlay to town?
Which
I
option?
think it was,
Option 5, isn't it?
Cheap.
the 66,000.
That's gonna leave us 60.
Oh, wait, no. About 116,000. That is if we paid everything out by the end of this fiscal year, we would have 116,000 left in that fund. And then that fund gets roughly 8 to 10 to maybe sometimes even $11,000, $12,000 a month.
How much was the grant, if everything goes great?
200.
200,000.
200?
Yeah.
And then we have 150, 32, I don't know, it's 100, right at 153,000. That's set aside specifically for this project.
Still hard for me to chew on having that nice street out there, and no real nice streets.
I'm having a real hard time swallowing dropping 600K, round numbers, for this project when we spend 180-ish a year doing streets in town. So 400K, taking the grant money out, would go towards streets in town, or
If I'm not mistaken, I think Christensen's bid this year that we did for Allen Street and Maze Meadows and Sunrise was 121, is that right?
Yeah,
Somewhere,
somewhere around 121, 125.
That was just the asphalt though, not counting the storm sewer part of that.
Yeah, it was like 125,
That was another
123, 125, something like that.
120.
Right, and they came in with, after they had finished Allen Street in Sunrise Circle, they came in, $5,300 or $5,400 under budget, which was great. We had something else, a couple sections down, they quoted how to, fixing the intersection at Lakeview and Jefferson. So we'd like to talk about that in just a minute, so. We can bring this back to the board meeting, after you guys have had a chance to really think about it.
I mean, we're gonna have to grow up here, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have to set a deadline on ourselves too. I mean, 'cause we're just gonna keep talking about this and talking about this. I'm like you, it's hard to swallow that much money, but,
Well, the big thing to remember, Donnie, is these are still just estimates until we go out for bids. We don't really know what actual numbers are gonna be to build
Sure.
that road.
Sure, they could be more than the estimate.
Yeah, depends on what materials do.
But I thought we saw in Mays Meadows, they came in below the bid, but when we actually got the quotes, it was below the estimate.
Yeah, and you never know.
And you never know, I still add 10%, subtract 10%,
It's still 600.
I have a hard time spending the money on it.
I'm like you, it's hard for me to chew on.
Okay,
So maybe agree to make a decision next meeting?
Let me ask a question. What did, think, I can put up as part of this? I mean, he was part of the project, he put up jobs.
10
Jobs.
jobs.
Is he, what happens if we don't take it to him? Anything?
no.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any penalty on him.
No, he didn't.
If we
get a
don't,
penalty.
because we did not actually accept the money.
Okay.
Right.
We're
Now,
only
if-
penalized if we accept the money and for some reason he can't come up with 10 jobs. So we
Right.
have to pay back $20,000 per job. That was not created.
Yeah. Yep.
The one thing, question we do have, do we have a quote on the work just to the Remington Road, that intersection?
Just to Remington, the 38-foot wide, just to Remington.
I don't think it's broken down just.
Now, I haven't broken it down just to, well, no, wait a second. Well, it would include the gravel in it, though. Let me see. Are you looking at like a 38-foot wide to Remington?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that's why we were making it that big, because we were hoping that was gonna be the industrial park
Right.
out there.
Mhm.
That's why we were making a 38-foot.
Right.
I'd have to crunch some numbers to separate a few things out to get that to you.
That might be worth having as one other option, I know there's half a dozen options already.
What are we gonna do? I mean, and you're just saying just end it? So just do partial road, I mean, we're not saying complete gravel for the rest of it, just end it past Remington?
that needs to be done anyway.
Yeah, that would be nice to be done and make Remington
Yeah.
a one-way street.
Yeah.
Enter it, subway, come around to
Mm-hmm.
the new road and out.
I wonder, I don't think that we're going to be able to use the $200,000 grant if we go with that route,
Right.
because it doesn't create a road to the
Right.
factory. So I don't think we,
That would be my suspicion.
and I don't know about using the other $153,000 we have set aside if we're not creating a complete road either. I would ask Sydney on that. So if we
what
do
happens
that,
If we don't move forward, what happens to the 153?
it just stays there waiting for us to create a road sometime. We cannot use it for
Sooner or
anything
later,
else.
there's gonna be a road there. Question is, and this-
Wasn't there a little bit of
this-
fun to do that from 22 past Remington?
That's all at the 153,000.
Yeah, the 152,000.
Did you go right just past Remington?
No,
No,
I thought at one time there was a little money.
no.
I haven't
I
seen
don't remember
that.
that.
So if we, get the grant, will be about the same price, money-wise, on the whole project if we do concrete versus gravel, but that's a gamble.
Right, and we have to have permission from the Board of Adjustment to do gravel. I think
I would not recommend
I
that.
don't.
And narrow the road
Yeah,
also.
and to narrow the.
And
to
not
make
the
it-
curve.
Yes. Mhm.
Both of these options require.
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment, yes.
With ramifications, if you make it smaller, which maybe some other people want to do stuff too.
one of the things that we need to make clear to the Board of Adjustment, this isn't a completed project. It's a phase, and phase in the rest of the width of the road as the money becomes available. And we're just, automatically stop the road construction and get done with this one. It's be like phase one of 2 or 3.
To make a good decision, I'd like to know what we're gonna, I mean, we talked about it back and forth, what, if you could just tell us what we have to gain and what our risks are, what could go wrong. That's what, I mean.
I don't have a crystal ball.
And just the financial part of it, I mean, you know, that's,
Oh,
The
yeah,
financial benefit for, making that road is it opens that part of the town up for additional businesses that
that's
could potentially relocate here. It just makes Centralia better looking when somebody's looking to relocate a business.
And I could understand dropping 600,000 if there was more than one business out there.
Right.
there's two.
If there, okay, there was more than 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and part of this, I mean, it fits into our long
Comprehensive
range
plan,
plan. So part of it is kind of a leap of faith, you know, you're gonna build it with the expectation that even though it's not used right now, somewhere along the line, it's gonna be used. We got $150,000 that's sitting there that will never be used for anything other than this. There's an opportunity to get $200,000 towards this project. So in my mind, I'm looking at it, our investment in the road realistically is the $300,000.
Right.
So that's really what you need to decide is, are you willing to invest $300,000 into this road?
Because 350 is either there or we lose the 200 anyway. The 150 will stay,
Right.
but it sure ain't earning much money. So the value always going down every year.
Yeah.
that sounds better.
But the thing is if you're gonna do it, you need to do it right the first time instead of make it cheap now and then have to add on to it too.
Yeah, I don't wanna waste money on the project, but
I mean, to me, the most realistic option if we don't build the whole thing is to build one side of it. Because if you build the middle 24 feet, that's the cheap 24 feet. Adding curb on both sides later on is much more expensive at that point. If you build one side of it, adding the other side of the road is not as expensive as adding the curb and the extra lane width on both of the others.
I absolutely see where you're coming from. I guess my thought is, what are we gonna be willing to live with for a length of time? And maybe the difference between 19 and 24 is only 5 feet. But it's gonna feel narrower because, what's that?
True.
Curb shyness, what they call that.
Well, there is that, but I mean, if we do that, we need to put some rock out there as addition to it.
Oh, right.
And, which is the same thing as what's behind, the car wash out there right now. That's 19 foot with rock around, the outside of that.
I keep going back to the fact that Highway 22 is 22 foot wide with the gravel shoulder. And you got over-the-road trucks running 50 miles an hour down that road without any trouble. And we're going 2 foot wider than that with the paved surface, and my guess is a gravel shoulder for transitioning back. I don't see where that wouldn't be an option you could live with for a substantial amount of time. I mean, I absolutely understand where do we foresee the second phase of our phase project coming in? I mean, is that a 5-year deal? Is that I don't know. I mean, it's.
It could be longer than that, because I would say that if we build half the street, there's no reason to put the other half in until something else goes out there. But if something else goes out there, then at that point, we're probably gonna be obligated to go ahead and finish it.
If something else goes out there, we're not gonna get another CDBG,
Right.
not for road. I mean, that's,
Maybe, create jobs, you can apply, I mean, you may not get it, but you can apply. There's no guarantees, obviously.
How's the traffic flow gonna be on concrete and gravel? What do you think everybody's gonna run on that thing?
They're gonna run on the concrete unless there's a car coming, and there's not that much traffic out there that it's gonna be that big a deal.
Unless they forget to move over.
well. I mean, it's
I
all
see
good
that'd be a little
discussion.
bit of a Bob issue that he's gonna have, they're gonna have people diving back and forth. I mean, I can see somebody having a little issue there.
Yeah, but there's not that much traffic out there, so I don't see it being a big issue.
I think there's gonna be more traffic than what you think.
Yeah,
I think there
maybe,
And if you're
They won't
talking,
turn and go behind Dollar General and all that anymore. They're gonna go straight to the highway.
well, they will, but there's not that much going behind Dollar General and stuff now, or not Dollar General, but.
Evidently, you don't live out there because there's a lot of traffic.
Is there?
Yes.
if you're talking aesthetics, then I don't know that you're gonna be able to, attract some of the business that you're trying to attract with half of the road.
If I could say, typically from an engineering perspective, when you build one half of a roadway, it's usually for what's planned for a future 4-lane roadway. So essentially you're building, you know, the 2 lanes on one side, but that's still, it's designed for 2 lanes on that side. With a 38-foot wide roadway, that's more of a 3-foot wide, you know, master road. So to build one side at 19 foot, that is narrow. And so I do think that will appear narrow. Now, going back up to the 24 foot on either side, and then if you do the 7-foot aggregate shoulders, essentially you're at 38 foot,
Yeah.
and you've got, the gravel base is already there. So if you do decide to eventually widen it out, you add 7 feet on either side, you have to scrape out some of the gravel, you add the 7 feet, it's not a huge expense. And I know from an engineering perspective, the, having someone get over on a, you know, expecting them to get over on an aggregate shoulder is a little bit unusual. And I think driver expectations, there could be some issues there as far as expecting them to get over on a shoulder if they're meeting a truck or something like that.
Right. So which one of us is gonna move over? You know?
Yeah, and obviously someone with the curb, they're not moving, and so one person, you know, expected to get over on the gravel shoulder,
Yeah,
but,
I'm with you, if you're in the car, you're probably gonna move over.
I would move over.
Whoever's not on the cell phone.
Yeah.
All right. So this was all good discussion, and are we gonna hold ourselves to a decision next week?
Well, I can tell you from the street standpoint, the half a concrete road behind Orson's is a pain. Trying to maintain that gravel side is a pain. And cars, anytime we're going through there, they'll expect you to try to get over further. They don't want to get on the gravel at all. They just meet you and kind of wait for you to try to squeeze over. I mean, if we put a concrete down the center, at 24 foot wide, that'd be a whole lot easier for us to maintain, to plow and do shoulders, but half a road would be, it would just get to be hard to keep maintaining after a while.
I'd be more in favor of that if I knew that we were gonna do the other half within
Yeah.
18 months. or
If we're not
whatever.
gonna do it for 10 years, I'd have some serious concerns about how long that road starts busting up, because it's just like Lena says, I can tell you, there's a ton of vehicles that go through there when we're blading. And there's farmers, and they're gonna be running through there, and the edge of that concrete down the center is gonna be busted.
We'll compile all of the options, so that way you can see all of them, just all right together, for Monday night.
Okay. Thanks.
Moving on to item 2 under streets, handicap parking spaces on North Allen Street.
Maybe a little bit farther if you have a printed copy, but there is a map in here. We've been approached by some people that are, customers at JJ's, and also by Sarah Payton, one of the owners of JJ's, about adding a handicap parking spot. I did put 2 options in this, because I talked to Phil and Mike, and, we kind of talked about the parking spot on Singleton might be a little bit easier if it handicap accessible.
If you want a van accessible, that would be the best one. If we do one in the front that's van accessible, we'll have to lose 2 spots.
Right. So, and when I talked to Sarah, I guess they have some sort of an agreement, there are some apartments over here that Larry Clements rents out, and those residents tend to park in that one on the single side. So it's really up to the board, what you'd like to do, but if we do the one out front on Allen Street, we are gonna lose 2 parking spots.
Especially if you want to make it handicap accessible.
But this is just a request, so if it's agreeable, we can have an ordinance ready for Monday night, or if you want to. Think about it some more, this is really just for your information.
I think we should do something. But I would struggle with doing anything on Allen, because it already turns into a lot of congestion on Allen.
But we could put one there, but it wouldn't be a van accessible one.
Yeah.
And I mean losing 2 spots.
Yeah.
I would have no qualm with
I can talk to the
one.
Havens and get it, I'll let them know.
If it wasn't van accessible.
The nearest one is right straight across the road.
I'd be okay with doing both, in all honesty, I mean, at that intersection.
She's gonna talk to the Havens and, get their input on it as well.
Anything else we don't know? Item 3 is a quote from Christensen for the intersection of Lakeview and Jefferson.
So that quote is in your packet. I don't know if very many of you have been on the intersection at Lakeview and Jefferson, but you could sometimes get whiplash turning one way or the other. So when Christensen was in, I think that they kind of saw it on their own and
Well, we had a
Talk
couple
to us about it.
complaints too, and we're getting more complaints on it. It's getting rougher, the valves on the west side are basically sticking up, the manhole's sticking up, because everything's settled right before you get to dip. Jokingly said, called that big valley, that's probably one of the lower points in Centralia, not really a lot. But while they were in, we had them give us a bid on it, and they said they could do it by just pouring it, doing the asphalt and shaping it back rather than make the dip like that. Because every time you make that right turn, whichever way you're going, you're gonna be hitting that. And it's a pretty good,
They would mill that out, I believe it was 50 foot, is what we
Yeah.
talked about, yeah, in every direction from the intersection and just repave that whole thing, what they're talking about.
So we are talking about building it out.
Yeah, mill the whole thing out.
Would they get the
Yeah, when they do Maze Meadows,
that would get the ruts out of Jefferson Street,
just that intersection.
just that intersection?
Yeah, eventually we'll have to mill and pave all of Jefferson, do that. But for some reason, that intersection has definitely taken a beating.
so this would come out of our transportation sales tax budget. We talked about having about 160,000 left at the end of the year if we had the other projects. So this one would cost $18,525.
I think what I would do, that intersection gets a lot of traffic, buses and everything goes through there.
So if you all are in agreement, we can go ahead and let them know. We can have a formal motion next week, Monday. If that's the consensus.
Sounds good to me.
I don't think it's gonna get any cheaper, especially since they're already gonna be.
Right.
They're already away, yeah.
and they've done good work, and they've worked hard, I think, to try to save us some money on some stuff. We might come in a little cheaper on, Maze Meadows, if we can get her going.
Anything for sanitation?
Recycling bin is constantly full.
Anything for stormwater? Any other for public works?
Yep. Week or so ago, I got a complaint email, parking issues on Allen Street. Emailed it to Sandy, went over, she took care of the problem. Speaking to one of the, accused, I guess, she indicated to me that there are several vehicles that are parked on Allen Street for more than the 2-hour limit. The limit on Allen Street parking during the day is from 10 a.m. to 6:30. It's a 2-hour limit. And this particular resident of the apartment over there claims to have a diesel engine in her truck and got to park there on the road so he can plug her truck in the wintertime and all that stuff. She would like to see the parking issues and the parking restrictions applied equally along everybody else, so.
She wants everybody to go to 2 hours?
Well, on Allen Street where it's signed, they, and it says weekdays only. On the sign it says weekdays, but I think the ordinance says Saturdays are included in that, but I don't know. We'll have to look at that.
The ordinance does read different than the signage.
Okay.
And you are right, it does say Saturdays included. Our signs say Saturday and Sunday are excluded.
Yeah.
Heather and I looked this up, and this thing dates back to, what was it,
1950.
Yeah, 1950.
It's been
And
revised
it's
twice.
been revised twice since then, once in 1970 something, once in 1980 something.
Okay.
I know Sandy has mailed letters to all the business owners downtown,
Yeah,
because evidently the offenders are employees of some of the businesses downtown. Okay. I am not inclined to write parking tickets,
okay.
but, I understand her issue, I do that.
Yeah.
That's one of those ordinances, it's old, and the fact is, it's really hard to enforce unless I've got somebody running around with little parking enforcement and chalking timers.
Right, right.
And my guys don't have time to do
Nope.
that. Whatever you decide is fine with me,
Mhm.
and like I said, it will be enforced equally. Hopefully, the letters will do some good, but of course, then you're looking at, okay, where are the employees gonna park? If they're there for a 6-8 hour shift,
Mhm.
where are they gonna park, at the city parking lot?
Well,
I don't have a problem with that.
right. As far as I know, around the center square, there's no time limit around the center square.
Right.
So I would
Right,
suggest
just
that
be
they
out.
could park there.
It's out of the bands.
Might have to walk a little bit farther, but
But where are we talking about, on Singleton or Allen Street or
On
something?
Allen.
Allen Street, where it says, 2-hour parking limit.
From Singleton north.
Right.
Like I said, we'll do whatever it takes. I'm
Only
hoping
area
it will
we
take
have
care of
that?
itself.
It's 2 hours, it's in front of, it's right here on Rollins as well.
Rollins and Singleton
I
and Allen.
don't think it- no, I
Is it
agree.
in front of?
So,
I've got the ordinance over my office, but like I
Yeah.
said, it might be one of those things we look at.
But it's only,
Yeah, we might-
it's
we might-
only on the one side of the street, because
Right.
the square side is not.
Right.
restricted.
Correct.
Right.
so we might dust that ordinance off and relook at it. It's been 35 years.
Every bit of it, since the last time we looked at it.
Yeah.
You don't think those letters are gonna solve the problem?
I don't know. I hope they will, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, the idea behind it is, that is business parking.
Yeah.
It's for people to get in and out of the stores. If you park there for 8 hours, you're keeping your own people, your own customers from coming into your
Right.
store because there's no parking.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not sure there's a good solution for everyone.
I mean, you've got the city parking on the one end, and you've got the square on the other end that can be parked.
Like I said, I'm hoping they take those options.
Okay.
And Singleton going to the east from Allen Street is not designated as 2-hour parking, is it?
Singleton going west.
Going west, yes.
Yes, going west, that's correct.
So, I mean, there's no limit on parking at
Right.
that.
That was one of the amendments that was made back in the 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, it used to be just parallel parking on that side
Yeah.
from there anyway. It's only in the last 10 years that changed.
Like I said, I'm hoping the letters will address it a little bit and we'll go from there.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
basically, the only people that park more than 2 hours are the people living in apartments.
Some, or employees of some of the businesses.
Yes, sir.
Would this maybe not be a topic that the Chamber of Commerce could champion with the business owners as well, specifically as it relates to customers being able to park in front of those businesses? I mean, to bring a little additional pressure and visibility to those business owners in addition to the letters that have been sent.
I think that's a good, you know,
Sounds like a reasonable idea.
yeah.
Well, Chamber can certainly look at it, but I mean, I will tell you that at least one of the people is not, is Chamber member, and we don't have anything to do with the, apartment,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
not that I'm opposed to talking about.
Well, when looking at the ordinances and the minutes from when the ordinance was passed, it was, you know, they did ask the business owners about this, you know, we talked to them before they, you know, put the 2-hour parking restrictions on there, so it wouldn't hurt to talk to the business
Mhm.
owners if we're looking to change something.
Mm-hmm.
They would certainly have a better feel for if parking is a premium and, you know, if there's times of the day when there's lacking in parking space.
It's a 2-hour parking all day
Breakfast and
long.
lunch,
It's from 10 a.m. to
I think
6:30
10 in the
p.m.
morning to 6:30 at night.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, we have to enforce it by what the signs say. You know, the Saturday, it says in the ordinance that Saturday is included, but it also says on our signs, which are wrong, it says Saturday and Sunday are excluded.
Well, it just says weekdays,
It says weekdays only,
Yeah.
but yeah,
yeah,
so
so, anyway,
if we end up enforcing it, we'll enforce it Monday through Friday.
right. Okay, thank you very much. That's all I had for other.
Any more other?
Other.
Any other? Item 6, water and sewer department. Can we report, have anything you'd like to highlight on that?
We finally got the motor for the primary pump at the Methodist Church lift station put in. Jeff's guys came over and helped us get the old one out and put the other one back in, so that's out of town, it's back in good working condition, which is nice. I had Cody took his water treatment class test on Tuesday, last week Tuesday, so we're waiting to see how that went. Other than that, working with the boring companies, trying to make sure they stay off water lines. Basically it. Nothing other than that, though, just normal daily stuff. We did have a shower at the shop. We did do that just for safety purposes and being able to clean up after you get out of a muddy hole. So, that's about it.
Any questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt. Is there anything for water?
We're gonna have a meeting Thursday with Ryan Hoy from Bartlett and West. They're in the process of, getting ready to submit the DNR, the final layout. If the email, I think Heather may have it in hers, they send it to her, because it's the only one working at this point. Okay. We will be able to look at it and then have a meeting Thursday. We'll have a conference call with all the engineers to see if there's anything we're not liking or maybe a suggestion we'd like to add to something, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And kind of looking forward to getting that going.
And that's for the treatment plant?
That's on the water side.
How are we gonna look at financing on the, wastewater?
They're still going through the process, there are a lot of steps and a lot of paperwork, and actually, we're going through the processing on the, financing on the water treatment plant right now. We won't be looking at financing it for a little bit, but as far as securing the purchase for the end of the year, that'll be taken care of.
on the sewer? Mike?
Probably within the next month, Gary Davis is gonna come give a presentation on where we're at with the project, and he'll probably touch on water and wastewater at that time. And, this afternoon, about 3 o'clock, we got booklets on that they want Matt and I and Heather to go through, and then we're gonna give them to the 3 farmers that are involved in the system on the wastewater side to see if they're in opinion of everything that they're doing favorably, and then we'll get back to him, same thing, he's getting ready. He said everything's ready to go. The biggest thing that's throwing a loop is the overland flow field and our inflow going into the northeast lagoon. At 2015, for some reason, and I went back and checked numbers and checked them, it's just way too high. And that's got Gary scared to death before he puts this amount of money into it, plus planning for being able to hold and store all this water. He doesn't want to be short, because then we're right back to where we started, we're gonna be discharging, we can't do that with the new system. So he's just trying to make sure everything's good. I know we're gonna implement some new flume readings going in the northeast, and then we'll probably do some calibration checks at the northwest, just to see how the pumps are doing, try to get as accurate readings as we can with a couple different styles, maybe to make sure everything's coinciding like it should. So, once we get all that done, he said he'll know where he's at. So,
Wasn't 2015 an extremely rainy year?
and that's the problem. Everything is based off that, because if we can handle that rainy year, we know the dry year is gonna be a problem, but we just gotta make sure. We had a couple other years that were wet. 15 is just, the numbers aren't adding up to what we should be able to produce going in with our population.
But didn't we handle it in 15 okay?
We did not discharge or anything, but we ran that overland flow almost nonstop. And we're gonna lose that, so we gotta be able to make up for it.
Yep.
The irrigation wouldn't make up for that?
It's gonna get us really close, and with the farmers maybe using their pivots without crops, running some water before frozen ground and stuff, that'll help. We're gonna try to send more water. Like I say, Gary will be here, I believe, next month, and he'll give us a little bit better definition of what he's got planned. He's working hard on it.
Thank you. Moving on to other, declaring case backhoe surplus property.
We have a whole pack already, the list on gov deals, we just need to declare surplus property before we can do that.
So moved.
I have a motion, and a second. Second. To declare the 2007 case backhoe surplus property. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Surplus. Item 7, other. We have a public works director activity report. Mike, anything you want to highlight on there?
Jeff's been working with Brake Brothers on the tree trimming. They've got one easement, I'd say probably 90% done. They've started on another. He shut the power off a couple times, 3 times? 2 or 3, yeah. Anyway, to kind of let them get a little more cut, and then they can clean up afterwards, but they're only kind of working a week at a time, and then they're going back to farming. They'll kind of share their time, so we're not getting maybe as fast as we would like, but they're doing a good job with what they've done so far, so.
It's all line things, I think.
Yeah. And everybody's been pretty good to work with. Haven't had one person, once she understood the scheme of everything, she was good to go with, so.
Do you have any other questions for this? Item B, budget billing proposed changes.
I had some information about this, but I'm not seeing it in my packet. I don't know if you all have it.
I don't have it in mind.
No.
Well, our current budget billing program was adopted by a policy resolution. And It was amended in 2008. The problem that we run into is the way our billing system handles budget billing. The way the policy is written, it says that people can sign up at any time, and we don't want to change that. But it gives two different dates, in April or October, that their budget billing kind of reconciles. So they get 12 months of budget billing, and at the end of the 12 months, they either owe some extra, or we owe some extra if they paid over. We would like to change, and it's difficult to track everything that way, just because our budget billing system isn't set up to do the two different dates. We have to do a lot of finagling, and we keep a whole separate database with the dates on it, and then we double check and triple check ourselves. It would be more efficient, our time would be better spent if we could have one date that we reconcile, and that has to be set by the board. And so we would like to propose to set that where anybody, you can sign up at any time during the month, there's no issue with that, but we only reconcile once a year instead of twice a year. It would be very helpful.
What date would you like?
It doesn't matter, October or April, either one, it doesn't matter. I can talk to Julie and see if there's a time that's less busy, but either one is fine.
Maybe see if there's one that's got a higher count of people who signed up for it.
Right. We can ask that, and then, I can bring a resolution back for Monday night if you all are okay with that change. Okay, thank you.
Is anybody not okay with that? Okay, thanks.
That completes this agenda. Do we need to adjourn this? We just can move on.
You can adjourn it. I don't know why it doesn't have adjourned.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and adjourn it. I'll move we adjourn this, public utilities meeting.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.